Very lovely to see you all. And there's a very nice feeling in the room, and of course, whenever Jyotishji and Devaji speak, even if you're not physically with them, you can feel their presence, you can feel their energy for who they are. And in case you got to see their talk yesterday, that was very uplifting too, living in God and Guru. It's in a certain way what they did this weekend mirrors what they'll be doing here, that they'll be giving a class, luckily not at 10 o'clock in the morning, because if it's 10 o'clock in the morning it means we have to start preparing much earlier than that, but at 2 o'clock, and then they'll do this Sunday satsang. I wanted to just talk briefly about their coming visit here, because it occurred to me, them coming here is a lot like your experience of it, which I hope will be positive. I can't imagine not. Is a lot like what we experienced with Swamiji. Swamiji stayed in a certain place, Ananda village, near their house, as they said, for many years. Then, in his later years, he lived in Italy from 1996 to 2003, a span of 7 years. And that was the first time he had ever lived outside of the village. He was always traveling since the beginning, but to actually have his residence not at Ananda village was a new thing. And really the work in Italy needed him there, needed his help, his energy. And then he got a letter from India, and the rest is history. It was India that made him leave Italy, much to the rejoicing of India and the grief of Italy. In fact, Jyotishji and Devaji went there to give a satsang to basically try to help people in Italy. And at one point, Devaji said, "It's so nice that you've had Swamiji, our father, here, but our father needs to go to work now. He can't just stay at home with us. He has to go to India. There's a lot to be done there." And Swamiji had seen that from the beginning. He said, "I see Ananda starting in America, spreading to Europe, and spreading ultimately to India." And that he said that in the very beginning, maybe 40 years before it happened. And so if you've ever wondered what it would be like to be with Swamiji, being with Jyotish and Devaji is the closest thing we have to that. Not just because they are the heads of Ananda worldwide. This is one thing I wanted to talk about. Dharmini mentioned it also last week. It can be tempting to think in terms of hierarchy. And you sort of have to. I was talking to the hotel people for the hotel where they're going to stay, and I said, my boss is coming, head of Ananda India, and also her boss, my boss's boss is coming. And they said, "Understood." Yeah, just like, please, for my sake, for me to continue to have a job, make them comfortable. So that's an easy way to explain it, but it's just not the way. I don't want to say it's not the truth, but it's not the way we look at it. You see, we had Swamiji there, and he was Swamiji, everything as they were saying. And we always respected those who came before us, but Swamiji emphasized at Ananda a feeling of friendship rather than of hierarchy, a feeling of sharing rather than of teaching, and certainly a feeling of equality as opposed to how many years, I have been on the path and how many years longer than you, or how many days longer than you, and so on. And so it's a little tricky now that we've spread out so much in space and in time, that to sort of recapture that feeling. So there's of friendship. There's a few things to consider. One is that Swamiji himself said, I have found and I feel in my role as spiritual teacher to relate to you all as a friend and to seek your friendship also, rather than as a guru. And there may have been many reasons for that, but he said, though I don't think it applies only to America, he said people would receive it better if they related to him as a friend. Because a friendship is a little more real. You know, we can sort of prostrate before the guru and just sort of put on a show of humility and so on, but sometimes it's not real. It's just sort of what we think we ought to do, and it's hard to relate. Some people had a very hard time relating to Swamiji. You know, I remember one woman came, I don't remember where she had come from, she wanted to see Swamiji, she came to Gorgon, and she had a private interview with him, and she sat there. And he said, well, it's so nice to have you, how are you? Do you have any questions you'd like to ask me? That's what he said to me the first time we met. Do you have anything you'd like to ask me? Do I? I had all kinds of questions. But, and he tried a few more things to try to engage her, and then sort of said, well, safe travels wherever you're going next. I mean, there was nothing to do, and you know, it's fine, but it's not really honoring the process. If Swamiji said, now that you're here, let's meditate, then he would be indicating that would be a good thing to do. But if he's trying to have a conversation and just be normal, then, or at least natural, then respond to that kind of energy. And with a friendship, again, we have to be more real. We have to be who ourselves. And that's important. I don't mean in an undignified manner, but I just mean sincere, not putting on a show. Another thing to consider is that Jyotishji and Deviji are not coming alone. They are bringing Dhyanaji, and as we were saying last week, Dhyanaji's arrival would be enough to sort of, you know, have a big celebration and a big party and all these big events. And we just had that in February. I guess it wasn't just in February, it was in February, but it feels like it was not long ago. And incidentally, we may not have Dhyanaji next February, we'll see, because there is a Kriyaban retreat happening at that same time in February when she would normally come. And it's going to be in Bangalore, and Devrishiji and she, and also they've asked us to come, and we are going to ask you to come. So it'll be sort of taking up that slot, and so I'm not sure. Why? Because the big event happening next year at Ananda Village, the 100-year birth anniversary of Swamiji, happening in June, which is exactly when the Kriyaban retreat would normally take place. So everything is kind of getting shuffled around in the year. So anyway, all that to say that see Dhyanaji when she comes, in addition to Jyotishji and Deviji, because she may not be able to come next year at the usual time. Maybe another time in the year, we'll see. But also, Dayaji, the leader of Ananda Delhi with Keshavaji, you might have seen her. She was moving around in the audience at one point. She'll be coming, and Keshavaji is leading a pilgrimage, so he won't be able to. But we have known them a very long time, and this is my point, that not to think in terms of hierarchy, but to think in terms of friendship, because that's how we all see each other. When we had this event in 2023, the blessing of this temple, and if you weren't there, then you're going to want to be here in 2 weeks, because it will be the closest you can get to that. We'll send the video out if you want to see it, if you haven't seen it, or if you want to re-experience it. But it's really a special opportunity to even travel in time a little bit, both forwards and backwards. Backwards, yes. Forwards in the sense that we don't know how many more opportunities we'll have for this kind of gathering with them. And so for many reasons, one, just the state of the world is confusing, and are people even going to be traveling as easily? I don't know. So you're moving in time into the future because you're planting the seeds of memories now that you'll be able to look back on fondly and say, oh, I was there. Oh, yes, I remember it. I don't need a video, though the video is helpful, but just that, I remember being there. And not only for yourself, but for others. People someday will ask you, I never got to meet Jyotishji and Deviji. What was it like? Just as people ask about Swamiji, just as we ask Swamiji about Master. So think about that. I don't mean for the sake of future generations and your ability to, I don't mean it like that, but hopefully you get what I mean. But the point is, as friends, we don't like to refer to Ananda as a spiritual organization, though it is. It's really a community. And we try to have as few rules as possible, though the cultural rules of Ananda are very strong. And when you bump up against them, suddenly you feel it like, that's sort of just not done. We don't do that here. And so on. But it's not sort of by, dictate, if that's a word. I think it is. So, I've been up since 4, so I'm a little disoriented in time. Dayaji has been a friend of ours for a long time. Dharmini was the first one Dayaji met when she arrived, when she walked in on the first day. And not only did she sort of say, hi, what's this place? And Dharmini answered her questions, but Dharmini also felt when she saw her, oh, here's a friend. Oh, she's back. What's your name in this life? What do you call yourself? I remember our past lives. Instead of thinking in terms of the leader of Ananda Delhi, which of course she is, and it's a blessing to us that someone would come from elsewhere to be here. But remember, it's also to be here with you, which means you have to be here on that day for her to be with you. but also, and tell your friends too, and invite your friends here. None of these events are closed. They're all open to everyone. We're not really advertising them broadly, publicly, because between the 300 some odd Kriya bonds and the 150 more disciples who are working towards Kriya, we have probably a full enough house, plus 10 people are coming from Bangalore. In addition, Aditya is coming, and Vasudeva. They are again old-time friends. We remember when Aditya came. And Swamiji said, you just joined us, but somehow you seem like an old friend. He kind of came in the way Swamiji came in. He just sort of arrived and was immediately into the heart of things. And Swamiji moved to Pune, and Aditya went with him and others. And I thought this is how it must have been with Swamiji coming in with Master and then immediately being involved in everything. And Shankaraji will be here too. And then also two devotees from America who are actually running the Expanding Light retreat, husband and wife. And then the leader of Ananda Gorgon, you saw her yesterday. She was chanting at the beginning of the program, Jayanti, Natarajan. And of course, with the Bangalore group, one of the leaders of Ananda Bangalore, Venkat. So, if you think about it, we've got Ananda Bangalore, Ananda Delhi, Dhyanaji, Ananda India, Jyotishji and Deviji, Ananda, planet Earth. So there's going to be a lot of energy in the room. And in 2023 at the temple opening, Dayaji said, wow, it really feels, I can't remember what she said, something like it feels really special, or the event was very blessed, or I don't remember what she said. And but our comment back was, it really feels most like Ananda when we're all together. When, for example, our old friends are here, and along with our family here. And she said, you're right, that it's part of it is just being together, having Nitai there. Nitai was my boss at the time that I asked for permission to come to India to see Swamiji, and it was on that trip that I was leaving in the middle of the year, leaving my job untenanted. Actually, there was a substitute teacher who took over, and man, she had a time of it. So when I came back, I said, hi, I'm back. Yes. Yeah, I just got back late last night. And boy, the jet lag is really tough. Yeah. And but I had said this would be my first day back, and I guess I'll be coming in to work then. Yes, good, very good. And just she'd had it. So school teaching children can be exhausting. So anyway, and one of the other school teachers, when she would see her walking around like this, and he would say, I heard Dharmarajan's going to be there longer. And she's... So anyway, and that was on that trip. That's as soon as we arrived, Swamiji said to us, would you like to move to India? So... So thinking in terms of that friendship, you can't, when you meet someone and you want to feel friendship, it's not like now I know what their favorite color is or something, or when their birthday is. You won't be able to relate on that level, but to try to tune in on that level, that, think of us all together in the astral world before we came down here. For one thing, that's nice, because in the astral world we're not separated in time and space at all. And it's somehow, when they were handing out plane tickets, we came later in the queue for some reason than Master and Swamiji and even Jyotishji and Deviji. But we're here all together right now, but we'll be all together then. Or then we were, and we will again. So try to break through any thoughts of hierarchy, or as I was saying last week, of celebrity. Like, oh my gosh, can I have your autograph? Just feeling the vibration. Because another thing to remember is that that's really what Jyotishji and Deviji and the other great souls who are coming, that's what they're sharing, is vibration. I've sometimes marveled that Swamiji would have us all together and he would give a talk, and we would all just feel uplifted and transported, and it wasn't just because of what he was saying. And that, I really wanted to hear the nature of free will, and that's exactly what he's talking about. Fantastic, and it was just this feeling of being healed, of being cleansed, of being safe, of being strengthened, or just being happy. And we tried to listen to what he was saying and comprehend it, and it was easily comprehensible on one level, but just as Jyotishji was saying about Anandamoyi Ma, there were depths and levels to her answer to him, but also to Swamiji, that we would not, we would realize, oh my gosh, they were saying that, and he was saying that, but it was almost like he was just radiating. And rather than just say, okay, let's get together and have a satsang, I will now radiate. You can't really do that, and it's just strange. So instead he would talk, he would share. But it had that effect, that it was as if he was beaming light at all of us. And we were enjoying that, we were receiving that. And so keep that in mind with Jyotishji and Deviji, that certainly what they say is important. But also just the fact of what they're sharing of their energy and their devotion, and more than they themselves only, also Master and Swamiji coming through them, because they do come through them. Also, another thing though, because so often there can be an attitude when being with a great soul of, what can I receive? There's sometimes even a little bit of energy. Anyway, well, without going into too much detail, sometimes you see that people will come and just, please bless me, please fill me up. Oh, I came and received your wisdom. Oh, I came and received your darshan. Oh, this is great, now I have it. Not bad, but sometimes it can feel a little bit one-sided. I'm just a baby, you have to take care of me. I'm just an empty vessel, you fill me up. I'm just a nothing, you're just an everything. And so please, yes, and so on. And that's not friendship. That's not an exchange. Now, I don't mean an exchange as thank you for that advice. Now I'll give you some advice. In the spirit of free exchange, It's just not appropriate. But we give energy back, first of all, by our attention. That's a wonderful way to give energy back, just by being attentive, by listening, actively listening, by, every time you nod and so on, it's giving energy. You smile. I don't mean, just naturally, just like, I'm giving you energy back, thanks. But just that's a way of giving energy. Also, when you receive something to the point of feeling it, suppose you feel peace from what they're sharing, just feeling that is a way of also giving energy back because you're entering into the experience. It's interesting. You're putting your mind, you're putting your consciousness where theirs is. And so that's a way of giving energy back too. I noticed with Swamiji that I would write to him emails and I would often not receive a response. But when he would send out a book chapter of the latest book he was working on, I would reply to that and say, oh, I really enjoyed this part, and I had a question about this part, and I'm sure I misunderstood, but there was something, and so on. And he would always write back to those emails. And I realized it was partly because that's where his mind was, that's what he was focusing on, it seemed to me, and this was me trying to enter into that flow, as opposed to say, oh, Swamiji, I was sad the other day, and I just wondered if you could tell me how I could be less sad, and how are you? And, kind of pulling him off course from what he was doing. And so, because partly to get an email from him was thrilling. You would wake up in the morning, because we were often in different time zones, and you'd see his email address, pop across the screen, and, sort of, I'm awake now, even more than coffee, I'm awake, it was so thrilling. And so to really relate to him where he was a way of giving him energy too. And it's not that he needed energy, and he was never seeking it, that I'd like some energy, who wants to give me energy? It was never his way. And yet, when there was that sharing of energy, it really meant something to him, so he said. In fact, he also spoke about the opposite attitude of people who approached him as a spiritual teacher, almost as if it was his job to teach them. Sort of like hungry birds going to a restaurant and just... I say birds, I don't know if you've seen videos of baby birds, everybody, I mean, you sort of wonder, I think she heard you the first time, but anyway. And it's just that I'm here, you fill me, that's your job, give it. Kuru. And that has kind of, it's somewhat of an unclean energy. It's sort of as if that person is my servant. The teacher is my servant. Do your job. Inspire me. And there was a time that was a little bit like that at Ananda village, not among Jyotishji, Deviji, Dhyanaji, all the people, but some people were sort of, you are our teacher and you shouldn't be also traveling all the time because we need you here. That's what we came for. And he said, I don't feel to relate to people on that level. I'm just not interested. He said, that's too much of a taking energy, and if that becomes the norm, I think I would just as well leave. Because it's not right, it's not balanced. So coming with a sense also of giving. Sometimes people will say, but what could I possibly give, And like I said, think in terms of friendships. Part of friendship is also being together in an appropriate way. It's wonderful to get their blessing if you can. When we're going to have a blessing here, please go to one person for the blessing. You remember what happened last time in 2023? One by one, the acharyas started dropping like flies out of the blood because everybody was going to everybody. And if you think it's something, try to multiply whatever it was, 11, times 200. Oh, God, it was terrible. And so Dhyanaji came and sat down. She said, my neck hurts from standing up that much. She said to Shankara, they're going to everyone. And then she said, can you blame them? So it was very sweet, because that was the one announcement I forgot to make before the thing. So please, I'll make it again, and if I don't, someone wave at me. Because otherwise it's just too much. You'll get Jyotishji and Deviji's blessings, if not directly, then peripherally, you'll get it through many people, anyone there, so it'll be fine. So just keep that in mind, these thoughts of friendship, these thoughts of giving. We're giving also by spiffing up the center, making it sparkle, as Dharmini was saying. We're giving by serving at the event. I think 50 people have signed up to serve. I don't know what we're going to do is sort of, you hand out, maybe 2 people can hand out a fork together at lunch, coordinate. And then 2 people can hand a spoon, and but it's wonderful because we're just enjoying the moment. It's our way of recreating the astral world, or recreating Hiranyaloka as we imagine it, or recreating time with Master, that we're just together in that upliftment. And remember, it's a real thing. Swamiji asked Master, he said, for those devotees who were with you from the beginning, he said something about, I don't know how it came up, but something he asked about their Kriya practice, because he said, you all must do a lot of Kriya to the monks. And he said, those who came before you, being, so busy with me trying to get this work started, they didn't have much time for meditation. He said, but being in proximity to this body, they naturally grew. And of course, that's a factor. And so this is an opportunity for us to be in proximity of Jyotishji, Deviji, Dhyanaji, Dayaji, and so on. I mean, this list that goes on, I think it's 11 guests altogether that are coming of them. And so that'll radiate everywhere, whether you get to actually sit down and say, hello, I want to tell you my story. When that man said, I don't know if it's a question, but I have a 30-second story ahead of time, I sort of braced myself, like, what story is this good? But it was a good story that he shared, and it was a helpful question. But also, it's a wonderful way because Jyotishji and Deviji, wherever they come, they bring us all together. I mean, when is the last time I saw Dayaji, this good friend of ours? The last time Jyotishji and Deviji were in India. When did I last see anybody else? Dhyanaji came here, but everyone else we only saw when Jyotishji and Deviji came, because they bring us all together. We noticed that with Swamiji too, that whenever he came, he brought everybody together, and it also helped us to be with each other, to experience each other. Otherwise, it's good if we can travel, but in this case, Ananda this is a little bit like the mountain coming to Muhammad. Jyotishji and Deviji are the mountain, and they bring so many people with them, but they also bring all of us together. So old friends will no doubt reappear, some we haven't seen recently. I guess the gist of it is, think in terms of what can I give? Because when you give, you receive more. And also think in terms of friendship as opposed to hierarchy or celebrity or awe. Jyotishji and Deviji are very approachable. They always have been. It's been amazing, and many of you have commented. That was one thing Prasanna commented on early on in his experience with them. It was just that they're right there, and he said hello, and they said hello back, and then they continued to talk, as opposed to, they engaged with him and with everybody, anybody who met with them at that time in the earlier years when it was small, but we're still small, cozy. So remember that story of Rabindranath Tagore that Swamiji told all the time, that there was a beggar who was had gone about his begging and had his little pouch that he collected his beggables or whatever he received. And then suddenly he heard the noise of the king's carriage approaching. And, naturally he stopped, the beggar stopped what he was doing to see it, and the coach pulled right in front of where he was and stopped. And the king came out, and the beggar thought, oh, wow, my lucky day. And just surely at the sight of me, he'll maybe grant me some land or something, And the king said, what do you have to give me? And he thought, what is this? What do I have to give him? He has everything, I have nothing. But in order to give him something, he went through all the things he collected, and he found the smallest grain of arasi that he could find, and he gave it to him. And so the king accepted it graciously and then went on. And then the beggar, that night when he came home and he emptied out his purse, he found the tiniest grain of gold. And then he said, oh, if only I had given him everything. And so keep that in mind, that the more we give, the more we receive. It's just that simple. And I'm sure you found it to be true already. But then we're just transported. Then we're not worried too much about spiritual progress. We're not worried too much about, this thing or that thing. We're just feeling. We want to enter into that feeling as much as possible. We were discussing with a few people the difference between thinking and experiencing. And Dharmini put it very simply. She said, when you go outside, out of doors, you don't think it is hot. You experience that it is hot. You don't have to think about it one way or another. It simply is, and you're feeling it. And so in meditation, too, we want to have that kind of experience. Not to be hot, but to just, I'm feeling this. It's something that much more than just a thought. And so the same thing with Jyotishji and Daviji. As much as possible, just try to feel. And just try to be, and just try to enjoy. Now, one little side thing I'll mention. If, for whatever reason, you're in the moment not feeling it, and this would happen with me when I was with Swamiji, I would normally feel so uplifted, so joyful, so blissful, or just riveted on what he was saying, and the sight of him, to the point that at one point I was staring at him so much across a big space, he just waved as if to say, could you stop staring? And so I tried for okay, I guess I'll stop staring. Hi, how are you? I had to keep staring. I couldn't help it. I was maybe feasting my gaze too greedily, but I couldn't help it. Partly he was so magnetic, but also I thought, I haven't had decades to be in his presence like everybody else, and I don't want to miss a second of it. But sometimes when I would come into a room where Swamiji was, or most of the time we would be in the room and he would come in, sometimes I wouldn't be able to feel it. I wouldn't be able to feel joy. I wouldn't be able to feel uplifted. I just was sort of kind of in a mood, and not even kind of, officially in a mood. And it wasn't that I saw him and said, I bet the inspiration's only going to be 90% today. It was nothing about him. It wasn't anything critical of him. And it was frustrating because I thought, again, I don't have that many opportunities in this life to be in the same room with him. And here I am, and I'm not feeling it. And I know I should, and I know I have. And so what's wrong with me? But then I couldn't think, well, let's see. Did I have enough protein today? And, it's not the time to problem solve. So I would just do Kriya. And if you don't have Kriya, then just do Hong Sa. Don't do the Om technique, not in public. But I would just do Kriya because I didn't know what else to do. And then I found that in doing Kriya long enough, suddenly whatever mood that is would just burn off, and then I would be able to feel it. Because otherwise it felt like a wasted chance. Here it is. At the temple blessing in 2000, when did we move here? 2008? No, not 18, 16. 2016. We were so busy trying to get the thing ready, and we were working all the way up until the time that the satsang started with Jyotishji and Daviji, the dedication, that I realized I couldn't feel any of it. Our focus had been on the guy who was going to put up the curtains, who just decided he had other temple blessings to attend or something, and never came. And then the painter was painting furiously. We were looking, and he was outside the window, the downstairs window with the grill, just sort of painting. And finally, he had to stop because he ran out of paint. And we sort of found Jyotishji said, what happened? We said, he ran out of paint. He said, well, I guess that's it then. Without paint, there's not much you can do. And so... But luckily, the painter was working really hard, had covered most of it. But I saw Jyotishji started chanting, and I realized, this kind of looks like an Ananda satsang. There's the acharyas up front, here are all the devotees gathered, Jyotishji is chanting. It sort of looks like a temple even, because all I could think of was that crack we had asked them to fix and they hadn't fixed, and this we didn't even notice till it was too late. I was just caught up in all these tiny details, and it was time to just let all of that go, which I didn't really succeed in. I was still too just caught up in the details. And anyway, so I was warning people for 2023, don't get into that. Wherever it is, whatever's happening, it's fine. If we don't have any pictures on the altar, which was almost going to happen, if they're not lit, it doesn't matter. Let's just enjoy the moment. Once it's come, it's come. But luckily, God made it all work out, so it was wonderful. So anyway, does that make sense, what I'm saying? Just nod, because it'll make me stop. So, okay? Okay.